Disc Golf Monthly's coverage of the 2011 PDFO Pro Player Clinic. During this segment, Nico Locastro will demonstrate putting skills and drills, followed by a sidearm tutorial by Discraft sponsored player Sarah Hokum. And then distance tips from Garrett Gerthy and David Felberg, both sponsored by Innova Discs. So let's return to the action.
I like to do kind of a fan grip with my 3 fingers right here and my 4th finger just basically on the rim right here, like this. You want it to be pressed in the palm of your hand and your thumb just about 1 inch or 1.5 inches on the top. The arm movement, you basically want to line up your shot with your arm directly in front of you first. This is just what I like to do. I like to visualize my line a couple times before I actually release the disc. So I want to do a straight up and down motion with my arm a couple times, just kind of pitch it out in front of me and get that basic technique down. And then with your lower body, you always want it to be stern. I like to do straddle putts often because I feel like my body's nice and stern and everything's really comfortable with the straddle putt. So I'll start off with a straddle. Basically an up and down motion is what you're always looking for. You line it up, come back and forth, and then have a nice high release. That's what I like to stress out to people a lot. Because if you're ever watching a disc golf video and you see somebody miss, a lot of times it's because they didn't extend their shot all the way through. And that's about the most important thing that I could talk about, is extending your release so you're always reaching for your target.
Real quick, Nico, how many people here have played disc golf for more than 6 months? How many people have played for less than 6 months? Okay. Real quick, can you, since we have such a different level, can you go over like just setup of it?
Okay. For straddle putts, if I'm going to line up, if I have a mini, do you guys have a mini? I like to line up directly behind my mini with my left foot and then have my right foot never pass this mark. You have a straight line that goes 90 degrees this way. So you never want to be off-centered. You always want to be slightly behind on this. That's why I do this kind of stance. And this is a basic straddle putt where you're square with the target instead of a straight up and down putt where you're looking at it like this. And a lot of times you're on a side of a hill or a cliff, and on hillsides I use straddle putts more often than not. Like I'm talking about, my lower body is going to be stern, and that's what's going to give you the confidence. You don't ever want to be off balance and shaky. You want everything to be nice and calm before you release the disc. But basically, I'll go through it again. I always start off short. So straight up and down motion and a little pitch at the end. And make sure you get a good high release with it, or else you're not going to make them.
What do you do with the release with your index finger?
With the index finger, it seems like I'm kind of popping it off my wrist with this style putt. I don't really like it when the finger's on the outside. A lot of people start off and they think that's a comfortable grip. They have their finger on the outside, but a more consistent release from what I've seen from other top pros and myself is you curl it just under this. And some people have longer hands or smaller hands, but you always want your 4 fingers underneath the rim on the putt like this.
So if you look at the bead, everybody has a bead on their putter, pretty much. It fits right there in the groove of your finger. And he said depending on the length is how much it hangs over. If you put it in there, you're always in the same spot, and that's what they designed the bead for. It wasn't for flight characteristics, it was to give you a guide, so when you release the disc, the least amount of restriction comes off your finger. If you have it flat, it comes off a different part every time. So if you just put it on that groove, then you can put his grip and it's comfortable.
And the best way to get good at putting quick is to start off short, because this is where you're going to build your confidence. Even though it might seem ridiculous, I'll practice these in the morning of a tournament, but I like to do them in a line like this. I put one disc here, the next here, and the next here, and I'm trying to develop a routine where I'm always doing the same thing. That's why I like to do this practice exercise. So I'll start off, I always want to have a routine. You don't ever want to be off balance, so basically I'm going to start off short and try to do the exact same thing on every single one of these putts right here. But there are some different angles that you want to practice. I'll go ahead and talk about that for a slight second before I finish up. I like the hyzer putt because that's what's the most consistent for me. The Frisbee always wants to seem to die left. So the hyzer is when the left side of the disc, being a right-hander, is facing down to the left, and that's what's going to make it drop. It's traveling flat And then for the last second with a hyzer putt, it's diving in the basket. So that's what I like to start off. It's good to practice hyzer putt, flat putts, and hyzers, because you're always going to run into a different kind of putt. I'll go ahead and show you the different angles so it'll be easier to see. I'll do the basic hyzer putt first, and then I'll try a flat putt, which is just going to come dead center straight on the pole. Just going through the motions with you so I can talk about it out loud. Up and down motion is what I like. I don't like to line my shot up over here to the right or line it up over here to the left, so I start off looking dead center at the target, and all I'm thinking about is an up and down line and a good level release. So I'll try a flat putt.
So your leg is out of the way when you bring back, right?
Yeah, with this open stance like that.
So that lines you square with the target.
Yeah. There's different stances that work for different people, and it's not saying that there's only one way to putt, because all the top players in the world, it seems like all their routines are slightly different, their angles are different, so it's about developing a routine that works for each individual person. That's why I'm talking about starting off close, and then you want to do the same thing whenever you're 30 feet away, 20 feet away, or 50 feet away. You're looking for the same type of motion. But then I'll go ahead and do the Anheuser putt, so you know there's all these different angles to work with. This is sometimes the hardest one for me, but you need to know your angles, especially when it gets windy. I always like to check and see which way the wind's coming, because the wind's going to react differently to the angles of your putt. Basically,
Snap your wrist?
on my wrist?
Snap the wrist?
Yeah. I like to get a nice pop at the end of my shot, and Dave talks about a lot in his clinics, starting off slow and going quicker as your routine starts. So everything's nice and slow and stern when you watch. And then at the last second, that's where I'm developing that pop. I'm starting off slow with my routine so everything's comfortable. And at the last second, I'm getting that little bit of pop because I'm reaching for it. I'm not going to stop my arm right here. I'm always going to try to extend where I'm reaching up high where it has a chance to go in. If you watch yourself miss slow, you'll probably just feel it right here in front of you. But when you have a good level, high release, it always has a chance to fall back in the basket. So that's another important thing, is understanding that as you move back a little bit further, from shorter putts to longer putts, this is just a short little jab at it. And then I'm stepping back, and I'm going to put a little bit of loft on my disc, because you know it's heavy enough to drop, and if you practice enough, you're supposed to know what each individual disc does in your bag. So I've been practicing these putts quite a bit. Hopefully I can just keep making them and look like a genius on the video. So from back here, again, a high release so it has a chance to go in. Thing I could stress about, always giving your putts a chance to go in. And the best way to do that is with a good release. You want to extend your arm. It's really important to always extend your arm because you're finishing it. You're trying to finish and be done with the putt. You don't want to short arm it and get a little scared of the putt. You're trying to give it a chance to go in by extending your arm through the chains. You're trying to create a straight line that starts at the end of your hand that goes directly through the hole. You don't want them to spit out, of course, but visualizing the shot is more important than I could stress. You want to see it go. You want to see it happen over and over in your mind before you actually release it. You're visualizing your exact putt. A little bit of hyzer, fall in the basket.
All right, well, let's get a round of applause for Nico Castro. Thanks, Nico. Before we move on, I want to talk about a couple things that Nico's doing that are more biomechanical, that so you could take them home and practice them. Yep. If you were watching what Nico did, the most consistent thing that happened when he did, there's two things you must pay attention to become a good putter. And they are making sure that when you move your right arm forward, you've timed it so that your left leg goes backwards. And if you noticed, every time he leaned forward with his right arm, as soon as it came up, his left leg matched. If you don't bring your left leg up at the exact same time of the arm, you don't get a counterbalance. You'll be leaned one way or the other, and you won't be able to be very consistent. Does anybody have any questions about that? The other very important thing that Nico's doing, and that's what he said, you could do any kind of putting you want. Everybody's slightly different. But one thing that they all have in common is they never take the disc off the line. So if you looked at him, he kept holding it out like this, and when he brings it back, it's on a line. Yeah. See that line he's on? If you look, Ken Climo turns like this, but he holds the line. Nathan Doss is like this, but it's on this straight line. See this line? If you have a stroke that takes your arm off the line, whether you go like this, or something like that, or you come under like this, you have a lot less chance of being able to make it because you have to release it right back on the line. And so some days you make 10 out of 10, other days you make 5 out of 10 with the same putter at the same course on the same basket. You can't figure out what it is. Well, the reason is because that day you're releasing just a second later or earlier and not getting back to the line. So if you can keep your disc on a line from the pole through you, called the line of play, and if it never comes off that line when you're putting, it's hard to miss left and right. That's really the key to becoming a good putter. And finally, I heard the question, I want to make sure you understand it. How he gets the momentum on it besides the swing and the speed increase, he's not popping his wrist. He's not spinning his wrist, he's not moving his wrist at all. It looks like he's moving his wrist, and that's why people try to do that when they're putting. When your hand is curled and you're under the disc, your hand will look like this in the grip that he gave you. So you'll look like this. What happens is, when he comes up, all he does is open his hand. By opening his hand, it moves his fingers to the right, and it looks like this motion people try to imitate. But really, he's holding it, and he just opens his hand, and it looks as if he's opening his wrist. So that's really key, to spring your fingers and not move your wrist left to right. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, thanks Nico.